You're listening to Big World Network.
Delroy Versus the Yshtari, Season 2, Episode 3, Pink Death. Written and read by Baron Stevens. At first, I lay there, watching in horror as the Yshtari pointed its crossbow rifle at the back of my true love's head. Without thinking, I jumped up and charged the large alien, yelling at the top of my lungs. I leaped onto its back like a rabid pink flamingo and started wailing at its eye stalks with my fists. Now, it would make sense to go for the one soft spot on a creature that is otherwise all armor. I wasn't thinking that way, though. All I felt was pure rage as I irrationally lashed out at anything I could. And it worked. Sort of. The Yshtari, it turns out, do have a natural defense mechanism to protect their soft eye stalks. After a couple of blows from my fists, they retracted inside the shell, leaving me nothing but hard-as-steel armor to strike against. It dropped its gun and flailed with its claws in an effort to dislodge me. When that didn't work, the Yshtari spun around rapidly, forcing me to lose my grip. I flew off and landed next to its deceased compatriot. The eye stalks didn't pop back out right away, giving me a chance to act. The other Yshtari crossbow lay near me. I jumped up and tried to pick it up. Pain shot through my arm sockets as the weapon barely moved from where it lay. I didn't expect it to be that heavy. Instead, I plopped down behind it and tilted it up from the ground using the body of the dead Yshtari as a fulcrum. The eye stalks re-emerged from my hard-shelled antagonist. It let out a roar, and the hard plates just under its eye stalks slid aside to reveal a gaping maw. It charged toward me with its mouth open, like it intended to eat me on the spot. It must have preferred its food raw. I fumbled around with the crossbow mechanism until I found a lever recessed into the side of the gun. I pushed it and hoped for the best. The horseshoe-shaped projectile launched forward and hit the middle of the Yshtari with a loud crack. The blade penetrated the shell and came out the back side, but, before I could celebrate my success, the creature collapsed on top of me. The crossbow managed to protect me from having the full weight of the monster crush me. Still, it pinned me down so that I could barely move. It took a minute of squirming and wriggling before I managed to crawl out from under the beast. I lay there for a few seconds to catch my breath. I heard clapping. When I turned my head toward it, I saw Stella sitting up and studying me. Impressive. How about this for a first date? I pointed at my fallen adversary. A lobster dinner. No thanks. She stood up and walked over to the fallen crossbow. She picked it up and hefted it onto her shoulder. Get the other gun. I looked at it where it still lay under the Yshtari. I don't think so. I think I re-injured my hernia trying to pick it up. Don't worry, the doctor at the prison can sew it back up for you. What? I just saved your life. For a third time, I might add. You're still going to turn me in? She held a glare at me for several seconds before it softened into a smile. I guess not. You have a point. And you've turned out to not be as much of a jerk as I first thought. She pointed her finger at me. But if I ever catch wind of you doing something illegal again, I'll be on you so fast you won't know what hit you. Understood? Yes, my love. I'll be a model citizen from now on. I won't come anywhere close to the wrong side of the law ever again. Of course, that just meant my next game would have to be more subtle. So, do you want to go out to dinner? Don't push your luck. She turned around and examined the Yshtari scout craft. With her other arm, she lifted it to its upright position and climbed in to examine it. It looks like this might still fly. Why don't you go get Minx while I work on this? She reached into her bag and tossed me her knife. I picked it up from the ground and said, In a minute. I turned toward the closest barracks. Where are you going? Stella asked. To find some pants. What? Don't you like my gift? Thanks, but no thanks. I wasn't going to wear that pink dress longer than necessary. Once inside the barracks, I tore open several of the scattered suitcases until I found a pair of sweatpants and a white t-shirt. An old towel and some water in a canteen also served as a quick sponge bath to get off as much of the green and red goo as I could. After that, I quickly changed and headed back out to get Minx free. It took me several minutes to cut through the sticky netting, even with the vibrating knife. Thank you for coming to my rescue, sir, Minx said as I helped him up. My pleasure. I am so pleased that you and Miss Stella survived your encounter. Yeah, me too. I thought about how my relationship with Minx had been so far. But are you sure you're pleased I survived? Minx examined me for several seconds before saying, Yes, sir. You're not the worst master I've ever had. Besides, it's in my programming to protect my master. I wasn't sure how to take that. Stella landed the Yshtari craft next to us. This thing should get us there, but one of the anti-grav pads isn't working right. You'll need to hang on. Minx and I climbed into the back seat, and we sped off toward the Rutherford's Revenge. Stella kept us low to the ground and stayed in the valleys between dunes as much as possible. The ride itself was pretty rough, and it took us almost 2 hours to finally reach the ship. The Rutherford's Revenge was a beautiful sight under the light of the 3 moons, even at a 45-degree angle with its nose buried in the sand. It seemed like a lifetime ago since we'd left. As we climbed off the Yshtari craft, Stella said, I've seen worse. I'm not sure whether or not the structural integrity is damaged, I said. Stella shook her head. This model was designed to be able to withstand meteor impacts. I doubt if he did more than scratch the paint. How's the communication system? Toast. I should still be able to fix it. That will be plan B if I can't get this thing to fly. With that, she bounded up the dune and climbed up onto the tail end of the ship. A moment later, she had the hatch open and had disappeared inside. You're doing it again, sir, Minx said. Doing what? Sighing. Haven't you ever been in love? No, sir. Even though I'm programmed for many emotions, romantic love isn't one of them. You're missing out. I slapped his metal shoulder and followed after Stella. As I looked down through the rear hatch, I saw her grasping a pipe and using a small welder on one of the severed power cables leading to the engine. How did this happen? She asked. It looks like someone shot it with a blaster. Long story. Can you fix it? She nodded, turned off the welder, and stuck it back into her shoulder bag. Fixed. What else is wrong? The control panel has been mutilated. That should be easy. With expert grace, she climbed down the hallway and toward the control room. I tried to follow her example and headed down. Unfortunately, I'm not as athletic or as graceful as Stella. I lost my grip and ended up bouncing, falling, all the way back down to the control room. I heard my shoulder pop as it smacked into the front view screen. Smooth, Stella said from where she examined the control panel. She looked radiant bathed in the red emergency lights. Stella opened her bag and looked at the contents. I'm afraid I didn't bring enough new cables. We'll have to steal some from other components. Minx joined us, using his magnetized hands to climb down. There should be some compatible cabling in the entertainment room. I'll go get it for you. What? I asked. You can't tear my big screen monitor apart. We might have an emergency where we need to watch a movie. Why don't you take some cable out of the kitchen? But I might have to cook something later, sir. We wouldn't want to risk the chance of not having a well-cooked dinner, would we? Yes. Stella said, The monitor's cabling should work perfect. Can you get it for me, please? Yes, ma'am. Minx turned around and climbed up to the entertainment room. I decided not to order him to stop, since I didn't want to stay on that planet for one more second. I sure liked that big screen monitor, though. While they worked, I crawled around the rooms of the ship the best I could to check on the rest of the damage. It was mostly superficial, but my collection of rare Gongolian artifacts was destroyed. Okay, they were fake, but I figured I could have sold them to some moron who didn't know much about them. To my further dismay, the water from the jacuzzi, which had been full at the time of the crash, had ruined my counterfeit cash collection and fake rare stamps. All that I could salvage was a pocket knife, a small security bypass kit, and a few of the fake protein plant seeds that I tried to sell on Tyrone 6. I tucked the items into my pocket since, the way things had been going, I figured I'd need everything I could find. When I crawled back into the control room, Stella was doing a final check on her handiwork. I think I got it. Everybody, hang on. She pulled herself up and activated the switches. The panel lit up and the regular room lights came on. A most excellent job, Miss Stella, Minx said. You are truly a woman of many talents. Suck up, I muttered. Of course he was right. I just wish I could have said it first. Why, thank you, Minx, Stella said. She pushed a button and fired up the engines. I grabbed onto the nearest doorframe as the ship violently shook its way out of the sand. When the shaking stopped, The ship was level, allowing us to stand normally. "We're free," Stella said. "I'm going to go out and do a quick assessment to make sure the ship is space-worthy." After she left out the normal side door, Minx and I straightened up the control room and checked on the other systems. When she returned, she said, "It looks fine. I say we get out of here." "Agreed," I said. Stella sat in the pilot seat, grabbed the control yoke, and soon had us lifting off from the cursed planet. We were then heading out of this planet's atmosphere and back toward Earth space. "Now to get to work on the radio. Delroy, scan the sector and see if you can find the Ulysses." "Okay." I turned the scanner on and examined the display. What I saw sent a chill up my spine. "Uh-oh." "What?" Stella asked. "We have company." I pointed to the scanner depicting the fleet of Yshtari ships in orbit, waiting for us.
This has been a presentation of Big World Network. Visit us on bigworldnetwork.com for more free weekly series, or follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Thanks for listening.
You're listening to Big World Network.